What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ariel if you didn't know. So today's video is gonna be so good. Okay, so today's video is gonna be for my beginner lash artists out there, for my potential lash artists out there. This one is for you. Okay, so today's video is going to be all about beginner lash tech products and like what you actually need to start doing lashes before you go out and spend like a bajillion dollars on things you just didn't need. So let's get into it. Okay, so I am here to simplify the world of lashing for you. There are so many products out there right now, like it's insane how many things you can find and how many tools and gadgets and all great things you can get, which is amazing because that means that the market and the industry is expanding, so that's amazing. But sometimes it can be a tad bit overwhelming when you are a beginner and you are trying to find your way through this lash world that is expanding in this very moment. So I'm gonna tell you the things you need right now. I'm talking like the things you need to finish this video and then go do a client or do your sister or your mother like immediately. So this is all you need to actually apply a set of lashes properly, and all you need for the beginning, all you need to get yourself started, all you need to start growing your clientele. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Your essentials. Number one, you absolutely need a ring light. A ring light is going to save your life. It is crazy how many little lashes people have and how dark it can get real quick, even with like a bedroom light or a living room light, whatever the case is, like a room light, or was it like an area light? I don't know. Anyways, like your light on your ceiling is not enough. There's no way, unless you have bionic eyes or you have a freaking flashlight attached to your head, it is going to strain your eyes, and you don't want that to happen, especially in the beginning. So get yourself a ring light. It is essential. The other thing about having the ring light in the beginning is that you want to make sure you get as many lashes as you possibly can. Obviously, I'm talking about the adults and the teens, not the baby lashes. But what I'm saying is that in the beginning, it is inevitable when you start doing your first sets, you tend to not be applying as many lashes as you will be in the next like 5-6 months, because you're learning and you're learning to isolate and you're learning what to do, what not to do. So you want to make sure you have a ring light where you can actually see, and that way you're able to apply as many individual lashes as possible without any damage and without getting them stuck to any lingering lashes, any neighboring lashes, any baby lashes that are growing in that time. You want to make sure that you're doing it properly, and a ring light is literally your best friend for that. Number two, you need a lash bed. Do you need a lash bed? Not necessarily. You need something to put your client on. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a lash bed. It just needs to be something that you're able to apply the lashes on with their head back. So that could be like a recliner, it could be a lash bed, it could be like some sort of chair. I know when I started doing lashes, I was doing lashes on a zero gravity lawn chair. And I did that for like at least a year and a half, like at least, I want to say like 2 years. It worked really well. My clients were comfortable. I was comfortable until I wasn't comfortable anymore, and then I upgraded to a lash bed, of course. But starting off, that's what I had. I didn't have to put a penny into it. I already had it, and it worked, and it did the job, and everyone was happy. The problem is you want to get something that is comfortable for yourself, of course, but you also need to make sure that your clients are comfortable sitting there or lying there for like 3-4 hours at a time. Like I started, like my very beginning, I had a like chaise lounge chair, and I thought that was super cute, and I thought that it was going to be really comfortable for people, and I thought it was convenient for myself because I'm like, oh, they can just put their head up here and then I'll be back here and then it'll work. But no, let me tell you, that chaise lounge chair was death on their back, because there's like that gap, there's nothing supporting their back is just kind of like floating, like where the chair goes this way, and then their back is kind of like this, and there's like this space here, and then that space equals pain, and then they're there for like 4 or 5 hours at the time because it was like my first set, and it was just a no-no. So I switched to my zero gravity chair, and it was literally like $30 compared to $300 at the time for the chaise lounge chair, and it worked really well. So I say you need to make sure you invest in something that works for you as well as your your client. At the beginning, this could be your most expensive investment, but there's ways to work around it. So you don't necessarily have to jump into a lash bed. You can kind of see what you have at home, see what works, lie down on it, see what you can experiment with. Okay, number 3, obviously you cannot apply lash extensions without lashes. You definitely need to get yourself some lashes. Obviously these are some things, like, I mean, the ring light and the lash bed aren't necessarily included in all trainings. It is a little bit rare to have that included in your training because they're a little bit pricier, but the next couple things I'm gonna go through usually are included in your training, and if they're not, you do want to make sure that you do get a training that does include this, so that way you're not left to spend like however much money on your training and then have to go spend money on the kit. But these are the things that you want to have included, and these are the things you actually need in the beginning to actually apply lash extensions. So I'm just gonna go through everything bit by bit. Okay, so lashes. You obviously need lashes. I think that when people are starting out, they assume they need to go invest in like a crap ton of lashes and like have this whole line from like 8mm all the way to 16mm. And let me tell you something, that's expensive. There's no way when you're starting out you need to invest in that many lashes. It is a ton of trays, it is a ton of lashes, and you do not have the clientele that is going to help you support the funds of that entire line of lashes, along with the other things you have to get. And you know how long those lashes are going to sit there for before you actually get to use them, because you're starting to build up your clientele. I'll give you the best advice from my experience and what I did. Obviously I didn't know much about anything when I first started, but now being in lashes and seeing what gets used and what doesn't get used, obviously it depends on your clientele, but this is the way I would do it to kind of maneuver yourself around and see what your clientele likes and what you actually need to have in stock. So generally speaking, you get at least 3 trays when you get certified. So let's say you get 3 trays of classic lashes and you want to 3 trays of like a C curl, right? I remember I got 3 trays of like a B curl, which was ridiculous because who the hell uses B curls? But anyways, let's say you have 3 trays of a B curl. Let's start with that. So you have 3 trays of a B curl. You use your B curls out to practice, to mess around with, to do whatever with, and now you have no lashes. So the best thing for you to do right now is to go ahead and get yourself some mixed trays. Getting mixed trays is going to help you out immensely because you're going to be able to see what gets used the most, what your specific clientele likes, and then where you kind of stand and what you need to purchase. The problem is if you go and you purchase, like, let's say you're like, oh, like people like 16mm, I'm gonna get 16mm, I'm gonna get 13mm, it's gonna be great. You can't apply a set of lashes with a 13mm and a 16mm. You need 16mm. You need to have the in-between lengths. You need to have like a 12, you always have to go in line, right? At least 4. So you'd have to have like a 12, a 13, a 14, a 15, and like 16 if you're gonna go to that extent. You have to have the in-between lengths to make it work, because you can't just jump from 13 to 16 and then, hey, here's your cat eye, bye-bye. Like, it doesn't work like that, right? So you need to make sure that you're investing smart. So when you start off, get yourself some mixed trays, because in that sense, it can go all the way from like 8mm to 15mm or 16mm, and you're using smaller quantities. So you're able to play around with the lengths, you can play around with styles, because now you have the lengths on hand to kind of do like a doll eye, or do a shorter cat eye, or do a longer doll eye, whatever the case is, or a natural eye, open eye. Like, you can actually play with them because you have the lengths. But if you go buy all the lengths, it's gonna cost you a good amount of money. So don't do that. I suggest you buy mixed trays in the beginning and then see what gets used the most. And once you start having to, if you have to purchase an entire mixed tray for one length of lashes, that's your cue. Okay, let me buy myself this length so I can have it because I know I use this the most. Does that make sense? Okay, how are you applying your lashes? You obviously need to get yourself some adhesive. So your adhesive is super duper important. You need to make sure that you are doing your research. This is the one thing you need to do the most research on, because you need to know what adhesive is gonna work for you. You need to know how fast you're able to do lashes, how fast it takes you to apply a set, so that way you're basing the adhesive you get on the dry time that it says on it. You also need to make sure that you're looking out for the humidity range. You need to match your adhesive with your climate, where you're working in your home, because I know for me personally, I am in my basement, my studio's in my basement, so the temperature and the climate and the humidity is different down here than it is upstairs. The humidity levels are off. So you need to make sure that you're getting an adhesive that will work in the humidity range that you're in. So definitely do your research on this and check reviews. This is probably the one thing where you're gonna have to do the most trial and error to see what works for you, but it's worth it. This is the one time where it's worth you spending the extra money on the trial and error, because you need to know what is gonna work for your environment. Because somebody could say, hey, this glue sucks and it didn't do anything for me, but that person could be in Florida and then you're over here in Canada and it's snowing and they're in like sunny sunshine, and that's totally relevant to you because that's probably for your humidity range, not theirs, or vice versa. So you need to make sure that you're trying different things and seeing what works best. For me, I had to do the whole trial and error thing to figure out what worked best. Obviously, we have our own adhesive, and that was what we came up with when we tried a bunch of adhesives and kind of saw where people lacked and where people needed specific things. So you need to make sure that you're doing your research, and you do have to do a little bit of trial and error with that one. Next thing you have to have, if you're applying lashes, you need to be able to remove them. So you have to get yourself a remover, whether it's a gel remover, whether it's a cream remover. You don't have to stress about it too much. You just have to have a remover on hand, so that way you're able to remove something if it's applied wrong, if it's applied in the wrong space, in the wrong spot, if the client is irritated, any type of situation where you need to actually remove the lashes, you need to grab your remover. So this is just important to the fact that if you're applying, you need to remove. So you need to have it. Regardless, you need to have it. Okay, next, you need to have tape. Tape is super duper important too, because the thing about tape is it's such a great multi-purpose tool or multi-purpose accessory. It actually does so much for you, it's not even funny. Yes, I mean, like you guys know, I use tape to tape down my bottom lashes for clients because I don't like pads, but tape is used for so much more than just that. Tape is used to lift up your eyelid if your client is shifting in a certain way. Tape is used to settle your client's eyes if they're twitching a little too much. Tape is used to pull your client's lid to the side if you can't get those inner lashes, or if you got to pull it this way to get the outer lashes. Tape is used if you have a mono lid and you got to lift the lids a little bit so you can see the root of the lash. Tape is also used if you have a jade stone and you don't want to dirty your jade stone, and you put your tape on your jade stone and then you drop your glue on there so that you don't have to soak it in acetone after. There's different uses for tape, and you'll learn that in your training. You'll learn that online. There's just so many different things, but it's such an important tool to have on hand because, like I said, it is a multi-purpose accessory. Then we have our pads. Pads are definitely important, especially in the beginning, and the reason I think they're important in the beginning specifically is because you're now learning about pressure and how much pressure you're supposed to apply on your tweezers, and when you are trying to isolate, what you're trying to focus on is a little bit different. So in the beginning, I know when I was trying to apply a lash or isolate a lash, I was more focused on isolating the lash versus how much pressure I was actually applying with my tweezers on the pad, and the pads are super thick, so that allows you to put more pressure without worrying about poking your client in the eye or making them feel uncomfortable in any way. So that's why I think pads are super important in the beginning, especially when you're learning to tape down the bottom lashes. It's just something that most lash artists teach, and I teach it myself. It's just the way to do it. But when you look into using tape instead of pads, it's definitely more of a personal preference, and it's something that comes along with experience. And once you start moving around and finding your own style, those things come with time. So definitely need your pads in the beginning to make sure that you are applying the right amount of pressure and you're not poking your client or making them feel uncomfortable in any way. I do recommend you have them just so you don't have to focus so much on like how hard you're pressing, because you don't want to poke them. Then you need to have a jade stone or a glue ring or an acrylic tile, something to hold your glue. You cannot apply lashes without it's so just small little tool that you don't really think about too much, but without this you cannot do lashes, because where are you putting your adhesive to dip your lash in? You absolutely need to make sure you have either jade stone or glue rings or an acrylic tile, something where you can drop your glue that holds the temperature so it doesn't just start drying out right away. So that is super important. Again, something that's also usually included in your kit, but need to make sure you have it on hand. Okay, then you have your primer slash cleanser. So you can either have a primer or a cleanser. I know when I got certified, I didn't get a cleanser, I got a primer, which was actually okay for me because I mean, at the time, I didn't really know much about cleaning lashes. They didn't talk about that in my training, but I found that I got more use out of the primer than the cleanser because I actually needed to make sure that the lashes had a nice oil-free base at the beginning versus cleaning my clients' lashes every time they came in. You know what I mean? So I think you get more use out of having a primer in the very, very beginning versus having a cleanser, because a cleanser is usually like an extra step or like an extra service that you could provide your client, but it's usually, cleansing is usually something that your client has to do versus you. The only problem is that obviously you have those odd clients where their lashes are super dirty, they're wearing a lot of makeup or anything like that, then yes, obviously you would have to cleanse. But again, in the beginning, if you're just starting out, you might not have those clients, or you might just have like the one-off and then you can use makeup remover and then throw your primer on there. I don't think you absolutely 100% need a primer and cleanser. For me, in my kit, I include just the primer because I think it's more essential to have the primer versus the cleanser. Okay, how are you applying your primer? You need micro swabs. Again, these are such little things that you don't necessarily think of right away, but micro swabs are super duper important too, because how else are you gonna apply your primer? You need to have your micro swab so that you can make sure you get from the root to the tip of the lash with that primer, but you also need micro swabs to help you remove the lashes. Anything that you need to apply directly to the lashes like that, you definitely need micro swabs for. Obviously not like cleanser, but like for a remover or like a gel remover or a cream remover, you definitely need to make sure that you're applying like a nice amount. So you have to take your micro swab, put it on there, get that root, get that glue, and make sure that it gets the right spot and gets that targeted area. And your micro swabs are so small that they're able to do that. So you want to make sure you always have micro swabs on hand for both priming and removing. Okay, and then you have your mascara wands. Mascara wands are super, 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 super important. They are needed throughout your entire set. You need to make sure that you are using your mascara wands throughout your set because you need to make sure you do not have stickies. If you are brushing your client's lashes just at the very end and then they're kind of tugging and they're like not smoothly going through, that's a big no-no. That means that something went wrong somewhere along the line, something is stuck somewhere, and you need to figure it out because you can't let your client leave like that. That is why it's super important to brush your client's lashes while you're lashing, so that way you can actually pinpoint if there's something stuck somewhere and then easily take it off, or just like pull off the stickies or the two lashes that are stuck together, whatever the case is. So you need to ensure that you have mascara wands right there that you can take and just brush them throughout. And then I just give my clients their mascara wands at the end. I think I heard someone say they charge for that one time and I was like, girl, there's no need for that. Just take your mascara wands, they're disposable products. You can just give them to your client when they're done, and then that way that you know they're taking care of their lashes when they get home as well, because they need to brush them too, and you made sure you gave them the mascara wand, so there's no excuse not to brush your lashes. Okay, last but not least is a mannequin head. Mannequin heads are mind-blowingly important. This is literally something I wish I had when I got certified, but they didn't give us that. So a mannequin head is literally how you get your practice in. It's how you can experiment. It's how you can literally get comfortable, how you can learn your product. This is something that you should be doing constantly. You need to be using your mannequin heads with the strips, changing the strips, cutting the strips, applying lashes all over the place. You need to make sure that your mannequin head is there with you at the very beginning, because you need to get that practice in, and you can't always use a live model. You can't always get someone right away, and this way you're able to kind of maybe start, come back, start, hate it, take it off, start again. This is where you really get your practice in and where you can start figuring out your style, start experimenting. This is where you can run through the process, because sometimes just getting the process down packed is a little bit tricky. You need to make sure that you're starting at the very beginning and you can run through the entire process with your mannequin head, so that way when your client comes in or your model comes in, you already know what to do. You don't have to worry about it, because realistically, when you do this training, you do the training like once, you get a practical once, and your lash artist or your lash trainer runs through it with you at least, I would hope so, at least once. After that, you're on your own. So you may remember it in the moment, you may say, hey, yeah, I got it, it's good to go. But then when you're out there on your own, you're like, wait, do the pads go first? Do I prime first? Did she tape? What's going on? So that way you're able to do that stuff beforehand and you're able to give that practice to your mannequin head, and then you're prepared for when your client comes. So definitely get yourself a mannequin head if your training did not come with one. I highly, highly recommend it. Okay, whew. Guys, I'm losing my mind. I totally forgot one. Are you ready? Ready for the one I forgot? Tweezers. Tweezers. You need tweezers. So this is like, oh man, you need tweezers. You can't do lashes without tweezers. So you need to make sure that you get at least 2 tweezers. You need your isolation tweezer, and then you need your placement tweezer. If you're doing classics, it's generally a straight tweezer or like a curved tweezer. Those are the best to use. I personally prefer the curved tweezer over the straight tweezer, but this is obviously an essential. How are you supposed to apply the lash without the tweezer? I don't even think I need to explain this one. Like, you need tweezers. Moving on. Okay guys, that is it for this video. I hope that it was helpful. I hope that you learned something. I hope that this helps guide you through the world of lashing and all the products and all the things you actually need before you start buying headlamps and you start buying all these fancy things you don't need right away, and you can kind of preserve your funds to then move on later on and get yourself the fancy things when you need it. Comment down below your favorite products because I want to hear what you love as a lash artist and what helps you do your sets even better. Okay guys, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll be back with something new next time. Bye!